You're listening to the Wildish podcast, hosted by Hannah Faye. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Wildish podcast. As always, I'm your host, Hannah Faye, lover of all things spooky, ooky, scary, and this is the first podcast episode that is premiering officially in October during spooky season, during all of my spooky content uploads, and I'm super excited. So far, all of the videos that I've been doing have been so much fun, and I've been having a lot of fun dressing up. If you're watching the video version of this podcast, you will see that I am dressed up as, I guess you could say, Catwoman. It's just like a leopard bodysuit with a Catwoman mask on. So, like I said, it's kind of a cross between Catwoman because I definitely took some inspiration from all the different versions of Catwoman throughout movies, cartoons, comic books, etc., and kind of gave my own spin on it with this like mesh leopard print full bodysuit. Anyway, I'm really loving it. I'm really vibing with my wig specifically. Y'all know I love my wigs, and I've got a black wig on, and it's given a vibe. My hair has never been this dark before, and I'm really vibing with it. And I wasn't expecting to. I thought it was going to make me look extremely pale, which, I mean, I do look pale, but I'm just loving the hair. Anyway, for today's podcast episode, I decided, in the spirit of spooky season, that I wanted to discuss two very iconic ghost figures. It's Halloween time. Of course, we're going to talk about some spooky, ooky, paranormal, scary stuff. And what better topics than the iconic La Llorona and Annabelle the Doll? I'm going to be going over both stories, their background, just what the story is, and just discussing them. Now, personally, I have not experienced either of these paranormal entities in my own experience. However, these are probably two of the most documented experiences, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of people have experienced both either hearing or seeing La Llorona, or also have went and seen Annabelle the Doll. And of course, Annabelle and her story is the inspiration behind the iconic Conjuring movies. I have not seen them because, as I've discussed before, I don't do horror movies or scary movies in that sense, but I like reading about and learning about the stories behind some of these really iconic ghost stories. So, without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to start with La Llorona. Now, the story of La Llorona, it goes long ago. There was a woman named Maria. Now, she was supposedly startlingly beautiful, captured the attention of all of the men in the area around her. She was really able to pick and choose what guy she wanted to be with. She could get any man she wanted, and eventually she would marry a very rich man with whom she would have 2 children. La Llorona is definitely one of those stories that, depending on who you hear it from or what area you hear it from, will be slightly different than others, as a lot of folklore stories tend to go. Some of the versions of the story say that their marriage hit a rough patch and her husband started spending less and less time at home. The general consensus from all versions of the story is that something happened where he wasn't spending a lot of time at home, right? And whenever he was home, one version would say that he was only paying attention to the children, which, I mean, not to dismiss Maria or anything, but as a father, you would hope he would pay a lot of attention to his children. But it seems as though it was to the point where he was only spending time with the children, not spending any time with Maria also. Now, other stories claim that eventually Maria caught her husband with another woman, and she discovered that that's why he was never home. He was cheating on her this whole time. Now, in both versions, Maria was enraged beyond reasoning, and she ended up drowning her 2 children. Some say that her husband was so much more infatuated with his children than Maria, so she became jealous of them and enraged at them for stealing I'm saying with quotation marks, stealing him from her, and that's why she drowned them. Either way, she immediately regretted murdering her 2 kids, as you should, and cried out, "Ay mis hijos," in translation in English is, "Oh my children." Now, Maria is sometimes said to have drowned herself afterwards, and when she arrived at Heaven's Gate, she was denied entry and banished back down to purgatory on earth, forced to wander until she could find her lost children. And Maria, from then on, was known as La Llorona, translating to the Weeping Woman. Now, some more recent adaptations of the legend say that she tends to float over and near bodies of water in a white funereal gown, forever weeping and searching for her long lost children. Some versions of the story say that she will kidnap or attack children, and others say that she attacks cheating husbands. Either way kind of works with her story, and it seems like in general, if you come across La Llorona, it's not going to be good. Like, even if you're not a child or a cheating husband, you probably shouldn't interact with her. Now, the Weeping Woman story in general is a tale as old as time. Many other countries and cultures have very similar stories behind some kind of a ghost woman who went through something super traumatic and is therefore wandering the earth in a long white gown and is just super creepy, right? Now, if you watch my spooky snack episodes on my YouTube channel, the very first one that I ever did was on a local Bay Area story about the White Lady of Stowe Lake. Now, this tale is of a woman who was walking around Stowe Lake, which is in San Francisco, with her newborn baby in a stroller. And after she had been walking around for a while, she decided to take a break, sitting down on a bench next to the lake. Now, another woman came by and sat next to her, and the two began talking. They were so deep in their conversation and completely distracted that the woman didn't even notice that her stroller had rolled down the path and into the lake with her newborn baby inside. Now, eventually, once the two women stopped talking, that's when the woman noticed that her stroller was missing, along with her baby, and she searched all day and all into the night, going up to any person that she came across asking, "Have you seen my baby?" And unfortunately, no one had any answers for her. Now, once night had fallen and she had realized that she had checked every place except for the lake itself. And it said that she went in searching for her baby and never came out. And it said that if you ever see the White Lady of Stowe Lake and she asks you, "Have you seen my baby?" there are 2 possibilities. One, she will either haunt you for the rest of your life, or she will supposedly kill you. Now, obviously, that's a bit dramatic, but basically, if you go to Stowe Lake in San Francisco and a lady in white comes up to you asking if you've seen her baby, just don't say anything. Don't say yes or no, because either answer is not going to lead to anything good. Now, La Llorona is, oh my god, one of my bats just fell off my wall. Oh my god, okay. I don't know if the video caught it, but I have like little bats on the wall next to me, like little stick-on ones, and one of them totally just fell in the middle of me speaking, and it scared the absolute hell out of me. Anyway, so like I was saying, La Llorona is seemingly the most reported about and feared weeping woman in the paranormal world. You can find so many videos online of people who've either heard her aching cries in the night, or some have even supposedly caught what appears to be a woman in white wailing for her children on video, which is crazy. Now, one girl on YouTube who I absolutely love to watch, her name is Daisy Maria on YouTube, and she has, in my opinion, one of the best video compilations of those who have claimed to experience La Llorona and caught it on video. So I'm going to now insert some audio from the video of a man who caught what sounds like the wails of La Llorona And I'm going to insert it right now so both the video and audio versions of this podcast can hear it. I mean, come on, guys. Those wails are terrifying. The way that they are like carried through the wind, sounding so close yet so far away all at the same time. It's just straight up terrifying. And the fact that almost all of the clips that have ever caught what sounds like the weeping woman crying, they all sound very similar to this. And like I said, if you want to look it up on YouTube, there are so many versions. But like I said, Daisy Maria has like some of the best ones in a video. Honestly, I don't know what I would do if I like heard that outside. It would absolutely terrify me. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention that Daisy pointed out in her video about La Llorona is supposedly if the wails sound very close to you, that actually means she's very far away. And if the wails sound like they're very far away, she's actually really close to you. So I don't know which, like, I mean, obviously I don't want her next to me, but I also don't necessarily want to hear her cries as if she's very close to me either. So either way, it's terrifying. And even though it's definitely like piques my interest, I don't think I ever want to experience it myself. I feel like I would just shit myself. Now, for the video version of this podcast, I'm also going to insert a clip from one of the videos included in Daisy's video. So if you're listening on the audio version, if you want, I would either hop over to the video version of this podcast just real quick, or you can also, I will have Daisy's video linked in the description of this podcast so you can watch the full video, and in there will be the clip that I'm about to insert. But like I said, I highly recommend checking out her video and her channel in general. But yes, I'm going to be inserting some footage that was supposedly caught of what looks like La Llorona. And this is from one of the videos included in Daisy's video. Honestly, guys, I 1000% believe in La Llorona and the tale of the weeping woman. It's just one of those stories that has spanned generations and cultures. And yeah, its exact origins might be different depending on like who you hear it from and like where you might have heard it first. But overall, I feel like the ghost of La Llorona is definitely real. Whether that means that there's like multiple, because if y'all watch Supernatural, how they kind of I kind of like the perspective that the show gives on paranormal hauntings, where basically there are separate categories of ghosts, and one of them is women in white. So technically, La Llorona and like the White Lady of Stowe Lake would both fall into the same category of the women in white category of ghost according to Supernatural. So, I mean, we don't have any like real hard evidence to, distinguish the differences between paranormal activity and ghosts and stuff. For all we know, there could straight up be like different categories of ghosts, you know what I mean? Either way, though, she is terrifying, but also like iconic. Like, she is just a legend on her own, and I personally don't want to experience it, but if you guys have ever experienced La Llorona or any other women in white, please let me know in the comments because the videos, or even just the audio of hearing her cries, dude, like, it's terrifying. So, that is the story of La Llorona. Let's move on to Annabelle the Doll. Now, like I said, Annabelle the Doll, she is the main antagonist in the Conjuring movie. I know since then, like I said, I don't watch the movies, so I can't fully explain to you every movie's like main premise, but I just know that Annabelle was the origin story of the Conjuring movies. Whether since then they've added in extra paranormal like characters, I don't know. I just know that Annabelle started it, okay? Now, the real Annabelle, she was actually given to a woman named Donna, who was a student nurse. Oh yeah, I guess I should have said this. Supposedly this is based off like the Conjuring movies are quote based on a true story of an actual supposed incident of a haunted doll that a girl owned. So, and that's the story that I'm going to be getting into. I'm not just going to be summarizing the Conjuring movies, okay? We're going into the real Annabelle, who also terrifies me. All right, let's continue. So, uh, Annabelle was given to Donna for as a birthday gift from her mother. Now, one thing to remember is that Annabelle was purchased at a second-hand shop from a hobby store. Okay, my thing is people, let's stop buying antique dolls from thrift stores and secondhand shops, please, because 9 times out of 10, it seems like that's where some of these like paranormal experiences stem from, is people buying antique dolls from stores. So I don't want one. Please don't ever give me one. If you do, I will literally check it back at you. Like, please don't. But so she was purchased at a secondhand hobby store. Now, Donna was living with her friend Angie at the time, and she was really delighted by the gift at first. But the Conjuring doll quickly became a source of a lot of fear for the girls. Annabelle made only very small movements to begin with that could be put down to either Donna or Angie accidentally moving her, like, for example, ending up on the floor instead of on the chair. Like maybe she just fell off. Soon, though, the movement started to increase and the doll started to move more and more. For example, she may have ended up on the couch instead of on Donna's bed, or outside of like Angie's door immediately after she was returned to Donna's room. Which, the minute that starts happening, I don't know what I would do. That doll is obviously haunted. The Annabelle doll story quickly became a lot more sinister. Soon, the girls started to find notes all around their apartment. The strange thing is that these notes were written on parchment paper, and neither of the two girls had ever used parchment paper before. By the way, I don't think they mean like parchment paper that you use to bake cookies. I think they mean like parchment paper, like old-timey paper, is I think what they mean. Okay. just in case anyone was, confused. Now, the notes would say various things, but most commonly it would say things like, help me and help us, which, us, like that, nah. And I can only imagine, of course, that it was probably written in some like creepy handwriting too. Like this wasn't some like gorgeous calligraphy. This was probably like super scratchy, like terrifying looking notes. All right. Now, the first medium that the girls invited over sat down with the girls and Annabelle, the terrifying doll. And the story that Donna and Angie were given was that the land on which their apartment complex was built on used to be a field. And a young girl around the age of 7 years old was found there many years before the apartment was built. Now, when the doll came into the apartment, Annabelle's spirit was still in the area in which she had died, and because she was fond of the doll, her spirit became one with it. All right? So Annabelle became Annabelle the doll. Donna and Angie were really loving and giving at first because they felt really sorry for the poor girl who had been found dead alone in that field. And they wanted the doll to stay because they didn't want her to be left alone. Now, Donna and Angie's friend Lou was the one who was attacked by Annabelle before the Warrens were called in, all right? If y'all are familiar at all with paranormal activity and investigators, you probably have heard of the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine Warren. So we'll get into them in a second. So a few things had occurred with Lou, including some bad dreams and some visions of Annabelle, but the attack that made Donna and Angie call the Warrens was actually a physical attack. Lou felt a terrible pain on his chest and realized that there was a series of claw marks on his chest, like someone had leapt at him and roughly scratched him all over his chest. So a priest was called into the apartment along with the Warrens, and it was discovered that Annabelle's main goal was to take possession of Donna's soul. Okay, Annabelle was not some little ghost girl. She was a demon, and she was attached to this doll. So the Warrens said to them that demons don't possess items or things, instead they possess people, okay? So I'm assuming by that they mean that she was Annabelle's plan was to hop into the doll so then she could hop into Donna. Okay, terrifying stuff, I know. The priest eventually exorcised the apartment, and the Warrens took Annabelle with them. So thank God, Donna and Angie aren't in the rest of the story. They were able to, live their life happy without Annabelle. Now, I honestly don't know for sure if all of the activity ceased after that. I'm assuming it did because I couldn't find any reports from Donna and Angie after this event, after the Warrens took Annabelle from them. So I like to think that they were scot-free, living their best life afterwards. So the Warrens both agreed that it would be best to drive home on the back roads because they were worried that if they drove on the main highways, that Annabelle would find a way to cause some form of an accident. And sure enough, they experienced a lot of car troubles all the way home. The power steering failed, the brakes failed, and the engine of the car kept stalling. Now, the problem ceased for a little while once Ed Warren sprinkled Annabelle with some holy water. I'm going to probably do a whole separate podcast episode on Ed and Lorraine Warren because there's quite a bit of controversy around the legitimacy behind them and their investigations. But either way, I will have to say if this is all true, they were brave as hell for taking that doll with them because couldn't be me. Now, once the pair got home, Ed put the doll on his desk, thinking that she'd be safe there for a little while. Now, soon she showed them what she was really and truly made of. Annabelle was supposedly seen rising above the desk, levitating on multiple occasions, and soon the activity slowed down and stopped. And the Warrens just thought, oh, like maybe the demon like quieted down, like she's a little, she's given up, she's tired, like she's stopped, right? Mm. She was soon found in different rooms of the house, moving around, and when the Warrens would put her in one place, she would quickly be found in another place. So very similar to like what Donna and Angie were experiencing back in their apartment. Now, Ed and Lorraine called a priest, but he didn't seem to take it too seriously and said that Annabelle can't hurt him because she was just a doll. Like, what's she gonna do? She's a doll. She has little doll hands. She can't grab something. Like, y'all are just overreacting. That was a big mistake because that priest was supposedly in a car accident on his way home. The car had completely overturned because his brakes failed. Now, although the priest was badly hurt, he did survive, thankfully. That's just one story of Annabelle showing her true wrath whenever people question her power and legitimacy. Another story, told by the Warrens Occult Museum curator, claims that Annabelle may have possibly been the reason that an actual guest of their museum later died. Okay, let's get into it. An interview with Travel Channel and the Occult Museum curator Tony Spera tells the story of a visitor who actually challenged Annabelle. Now, Spera said, quote, "We believe it's responsible for the death of a young man who came here to the museum. This young man, he runs up to the case, he says, 'This is a bunch of bunk. I don't believe any of this stuff. If this thing can put slashes on somebody, do something to me right now.' Ed was like flabbergasted. He said, 'Son, I'm sorry, but you have to leave.' 3 hours later, the man was dead. He died instantly when he hit a tree head on with his motorcycle." End quote. That is so sad. If I'm assuming, I feel like that has to be somewhat true if they're like trying to, tell this story to Travel Channel. Like, I would really hope that if they made this up, someone would have like, looked into it and been like, yeah, no, this isn't real, but media. But anyway, the doll still lives in the Warrens Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut. Now, many people have claimed to have seen Annabelle moving inside of the case whenever they visit the museum or have captured weird things in photos. But Tony Spera says that he actually has never seen Annabelle move, and he's the museum curator. So, I mean, take with that what you will. But either way, I will definitely not be challenging or questioning Miss Annabelle's legitimacy, because my life means a lot to me and I would really not like to put it to the test because of a haunted doll. Now, there's actually an official Ed and Lorraine Warren YouTube channel and a video of Tony Spera talking about some of the most frequently asked questions that he gets a lot about Annabelle. And I'll be sure to also link the video in the description of this podcast so that way you guys can check it out if you'd like to hear more. Now, those are two of the most popular and widely known about ghost stories. Let me know what you guys think of each tale and if you've had any personal experiences or even like friends or family who have also had experiences with either spirit. And be sure to, like I said, check out Daisy Maria's channel and her video on La Llorona and all of the other like really interesting paranormal stories that she covers. What she does is she has her like subscribers also submit ghost stories that they've experienced, and then she'll read them and discuss them. Like she'll do a couple per video, and it's really, really interesting. If you guys liked this podcast, please make sure to give it a like and to subscribe so that way you don't miss out on any future episodes. And otherwise, I hope you have a good rest of your day, a good rest of your week, and I will see you guys in my next episode. Bye, guys.